All right, welcome back to the Illini Audible Podcast. My name is Said Bravo. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the pod. I really appreciate it as always. And we're back. This pod, of course, if you clicked on it, it's a little different, but man, it's can you believe it's already October? You can smell the fall air and the leaves falling. A lot of good football coming up, not just NFL, college football as well. And baseball playoffs are underway in full swing, but that's not why you called. Today, we have a very different episode. I know this is a football podcast. I know typically I talk Illinois football. Typically, that's kind of what this whole ordeal has been for the last year and a couple months. But I think this team deserves to be recognized in this particular moment in time. This team has earned a lot of respect, I think, and this team. It's time to talk about this team, man. And for this occasion, I brought I brought a couple special things, man. If you're watching on YouTube, you're about to see a spectacle. So brace for a spectacle. I brought my boots, guys. Yep, played with them on Friday. Arc Fields over here in Champaign Urbana and on the campus. I don't even know what brand, but I've had them for a while. So brought that. I got my handy dandy. Come on, man. You already know. You already know, man. That's right, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, that's right. Today we are talking Illinois soccer. Why? There's a couple reasons actually. Like I mentioned earlier, this team has done a lot to be talked about, has done a lot early part of this season to earn recognition. And two, this is my podcast. I can do whatever the hell I want. So here it is. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what it is. And I do have my Mexico jersey. I am a proud Mexican American. The World Cup's coming up next summer, and I hope it's not. I hope it does. I hope it goes well for my team. I don't. I suspect it won't. But our organization has been a dump for a while. But looking forward to that. Anyways, that's not what you called. Let's talk some Illinois soccer, right? Shall we? And if you're familiar with me, you'll know that right now one of the teams among the teams that I am covering is Illinois soccer. I'm covering Illinois soccer for IlliniInquirer.com. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here today is because I've been at most of their games, at least the home games, and got to see them firsthand, and also post-game conversations, broadcast conversations inside the village, just kind of getting a sense of what this team really is and what it is, how it is that they've gotten to this point. And if you're not familiar with Illinois soccer, right now they are 9-2-1. That's 9 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. The tie, particularly this is a part that I'll get to, but it'll be an interesting kind of more nuanced conversation as we go. But if you're not familiar with the program, I think, and if you want to just know the quick gist of why Illinois soccer has changed over the course of this past season, well, it's plain and simple. Katie Hultin, new coach for Illinois coach who in her first year, Katie Hultin has changed this program, and it's different. The intensity is there. There's an injection of energy that's been instilled in that program, and you feel it every time that they touch the pitch. It's been very interesting to see just how they've handled all of it, and how this team has handled the pressure of what they have now, but how it is that they've built towards what it is that they have right now in front of them. It is a very interesting team because you have a mix of girls who have been together for a while, and you have a core that decided, and this is confirmed, that they decided to come back all together because they didn't want to leave, or they. So just for a bit of context, I'm gonna get a little bit ahead of my skis, but obviously Janet Rayfield was the former Illinois head coach, highly decorated head coach in Illinois soccer. and she retired last season. That left a big void in terms of this soccer program. But the girls on the team decided they wanted to see it through, that they wanted to be together and stay together. And obviously, transferring in the world of collegiate soccer and NCAA Big Ten soccer isn't as common as it is in other sports. So that's important to note. But still, I think there's validity to that. Part of the story is that they wanted to stay together and that they wanted to see it through. And
it looks like they have the perfect coach to give them results, to put them in a position to succeed. It's largely been what we've seen throughout the course of this season. And it's so interesting how this team has had such a quick turnaround because, as I mentioned, uh, these coaches in NCAA and in the Big Ten, you only get 14 days to whip them into shape. Now, granted, Hultin, she gave credit to a lot of her players for coming into the season in really good shape. At the top of that is, and someone we'll talk about later, Ellen Pearson, who is one of the defenders. He's played almost every single game, every minute of every single game is truly impressive. The amount of the physical shape that you have to be to play that, to be that, is pretty insane. But back to Hultin, just an incredible resume that she brought, just used to winning, was a former head coach at Grand Valley State, and he was used to just the culture of winning. And it looks like she's bringing that into this Illinois soccer program throughout this early part of the season. Obviously, we'll have to see how the rest of the season pans out. But for now, it's largely been a lot of success and minimal miscues and minimal roadblocks. We cannot talk about how good this soccer team has been without talking about the impetus for how Katie Hultin has arrived had arrived to Illinois, for why she is here right now. And a lot of that is largely due to the organization at the top and the athletic director, Josh Whitman, who we know, who everyone's familiar with, who a lot of people want to thank for all the changes that have been made throughout the course of this past couple years of Illinois, or not just Illinois athletics, not just Illinois soccer, excuse me, just Illinois athletics in its totality. And it's been fairly interesting to just see how it all pans out. But obviously, there was an investment in Demersion Park, in the facility, and that is in large part why you were able to get a coach like Katie Hultin, is the investment that was, and just kind of what that does in terms of the recruiting aspect of things and all of that. But that's been a big reason for why we needed to talk about Josh Whitman. But yes, historic start to this Illinois soccer season, 7-0-1. They did start 7-0. They were on track, and they got off to the best start in soccer history. And their non-conference schedule, they were able to handle that pretty well, albeit they did it throughout the course of a couple close games. It's still, they had some really solid wins. I think the biggest one was the Kentucky one, because last season that was a playoff team, that was a tournament team, and you went into their place and you beat them 2-1. That's when you kind of felt, okay, this might be real. This might be a real. This might not just be kind of a decent start that Illinois soccer is kind of used to, going maybe 2-1, 3-1 over the course of the first couple games. You beat Kentucky, and then you're like, all right, well, that you're pulling me in, and that's largely what it's been throughout this past couple weeks. Throughout the season, it's been interesting to see how they've started, and they've been doing it really well. I think one thing that stands out to me about the way that this team plays is that it is one of the most, I think, sustainable methods of playing soccer. I think you see it a lot in Europe, is the way that this team plays. Super pass heavy, where you don't really just play the long ball. You don't play direct. You play at the rhythm of the game. Sometimes soccer can be a simple game, and it's as simple as passing the ball to your teammate, finding another pass immediately, and then advancing the ball forward to every third, every level of the field until you score. But the point is to keep the defenders, keep the backs on their toes, and that is, I think, one of the better ways of playing soccer. Like I don't understand why more programs play that way. I'm sure that is the ideal method of playing, though. I will say, but this program has been able to do it really well, and you can feel it at Immersion Park. You can feel it at least at the Immersion Park because I haven't been there for any of the other games. I have watched a handful of the other games, but you really feel the sense of urgency. You feel the energy. You feel the pressing that has to happen at every level of the field. And when you have a team buying in, I think that's indicative of the type of program that they're becoming, that they have. There's a sense of urgency at every level of the field. And even when they don't have possession, you also have the buy-in from the forwards. That'd be Kayla Jackson, Sarah Foley, and Emma Yee that are pressing continuously, trying to regain possession. To me, that is indicative of the coaching and the belief that they have to be competitive at every level. And I don't think every soccer team does that. Certainly not every soccer team in the world does that, where you have your forwards, every single one of them press, maybe not at every single moment of the game, but at a significant amount of time when it's critical. You see these players going up when they see an exposed player alone with the ball, you might be able to compromise that possession for the other team. They're going for it. And I think that's really, really good to see. Let's get into the individual performances of this program and what we've seen from these individual players. As I mentioned, this team wanted to stay together, wanted to see it through with Katie Hultin, and I think they're paying it off. And one of the things that they told us is that they kind of knew that it's all been building up. It's been building up what they had with Janet and kind of eclipsing at this moment in time, that they knew they were capable of doing it. It was just a matter of time and them being together to be able to accomplish the kind of things that they've been doing throughout this early part of the season. But to kind of touch on the individual performance of it all, obviously, I think we have to start with one of the leaders of this team is Sarah Foley, who is leading the team in goals. And it's not just about the stats; it's about what she brings to this team. And throughout this early part of the season, she's been a big part of this team. One of the forwards that featured in the upper part of the field and the attacking way, and you really feel that. And she's been able to execute throughout most of these games. I think not in total recent the past couple games, but you can really feel the significant contributions from Sarah Foley, how she's contributed to this program, and obviously a senior who's kind of seen it all. And I think one of the players that stands out to me as well is actually a sophomore. The two sophomores on this team, forwards on this team, Emma Yee and Kayla Jackson. Kayla Jackson is a transfer from Georgia, who they had tried to recruit before she went into collegiate soccer, and obviously did not arrive here. Actually, her first career goal, I believe, ended up being against Illinois. So that was interesting. But I'm getting off the rails here. Kayla Jackson and Emma Yee are the two players who, if you can really establish their confidence right now in this year, then I think the sky's the limit for the next couple of years of this program, because they're the two players who you're going to be able to count on when it comes to attacking, when it comes to the forwards of it all. Kayla Jackson is really gritty. And what I mean by that, when I refer to the players who aren't afraid to press, who aren't afraid to do all of that, she's the one that comes to mind. So to me, she's been playing really excellent soccer. Apart from what she's been able to contribute when it comes to scoring and when it comes to goals, she's been an excellent part of the program. And the stud freshman that we saw last season, that this year is being able to is having even more of a heightened role on this program, is Emma Yee, who Katie Hultin gushes about the way that she, the ball control, what she does with the ball at her feet. And it is pretty remarkable, just the ability to move the ball almost at will, and the control that it takes. It's really impressive to see from someone who's so young. And I do think she's been able to score a significant amount of goals. It's kind of a joke that they have her and Sarah Foley as to who can score the most goals. It's a friendly little competition, just a fun little thing right there. But man, she's already got 5 goals this season, got an assist, but 842 minutes. She's seen more of a significant role this season, obviously, pushing in minutes, and but you can tell that she's still young, though. There are times where she gets a bit overzealous. She stays with the ball maybe too long, and can't find a teammate. And some of that is not her fault because sometimes teammates aren't there all the time. But for the most part, man, she's been really just a great part of this program and has been able to contribute a significant amount when it comes to this team. And it's pretty incredible, just the amount of pieces that it seems like they have and that they are able to, you know, play with and all that. Like I mentioned, I wanted to talk about obviously the defense has been pretty remarkable. They've only allowed what, like 6 goals this season, and or 9 goals this season, and 3 of them came this past weekend and just over the course of these past couple of weeks. But they started the first, however, 7, 8 games having allowed no goals. I mean, I don't care who you're playing. It's pretty hard to do that against really anyone. I know it's difficult to just score in general, but it's when you do that for consecutive games, it's really, really impressive. And this at the forefront of the defense has been Ellen Pearson, who played really, really well, has played so many minutes. Really, the only thing about that, and I think I can relate to this, and Ellen Pearson has been really great throughout this season, and she's been able to she takes the ball when she takes the ball from attackers. I mean, you can just feel the dominance, and it's really good to see. But I was also gonna mention that it's difficult to play a lot of minutes, and you can get fatigue, and not just physically but also mentally. But Pearson is one of those players that strikes me as, I can run for days. I can compete. I will outwork you, and I think that's what she is, because there is certainly times this season, and granted, these have been incredible challenges. Ohio State's, and I'm getting a little bit specific here, but Ohio State's Amanda Shooter and Penn State's Aubrey Copa, and a lot of these very physical players that we'll get into a little bit of the conference play that have just straight beaten the defense, and particularly Pearson has been at the forefront of that. But I mean, man, it's hard to defend, especially if you're caught alone, and you can tell just the fight in her, but obviously getting beat, it's something that's going to happen, right? In the game of soccer, sometimes you're going to get beat. You just want to limit the amount of times that you do. But Ellen Pearson has been just really great on this team. Obviously, a senior. I think the part that really stands out to me is that a lot of these players, I think they have 12 freshmen on this team, 12 true freshmen. I mean, you talk about building a program. I think that's going to come key when it comes to big picture. That's going to be key when it comes to years beyond just this season. And you already have a couple freshmen sliding into the lineup over the course of this season. I think I'm trying to find the names here, but You got Ashland Adams, Riley Wood, and Tia Mason, who have been injected into this. Right, they're all freshmen, and they've been injected slowly into this starting lineup. And I mean, it's the youth movement that you're going to have to continue, because there are days where you're going to have to live without Sarah Foley, uh, without without Sarah Foley, without other seniors like Ellen Pearson, who I mentioned as well, without one of the role players, Sarah Keystan, who I'm sure a lot of these players have kind of a mentorish role on this program. Leah Howard, who's also been really good over the recent couple of games. And I mean, you wonder how it is that they're going to replace all these players. The key player, Sydney Stevens, who actually is one of those players that this team talks a lot about confidence, about what confidence does for their playing, for the way that they play. And Sydney Stevens has been at the forefront of that in terms of just being the most confident player in the program. And beyond that, she's been a big contributor. She had a couple goals she had one goal against Penn State, which was that riveting win. And we'll talk about the conference schedule as well, because that's something that I wanted to take a look at. But she had that goal, and she's, again, another piece that is contributing to this program in a big way. But soon, I'm sure they're going to start thinking about how it is that they're going to incorporate all these young talents. But I'm sure one thing that'll happen with the previously mentioned rule that's going to be taken away from the 14-day rule, from the 14-day restriction, that a time that you have training to go ahead against all these other teams. A couple things to note from that. You might start seeing a lot of these younger players break out way earlier, because the way that it's been largely is that you have players come out, you maybe incorporate that, give them a couple minutes per game, incorporate into the starting lineup maybe later throughout the season, give them some of the experience, kind of ease them into the game. Well, with unlimited time, or however much time, extended time that there's going to be in soccer, in collegiate soccer, to prepare for the season, what is more than 14 days, then you might be seeing a lot of these younger players step up in earlier times of the season and earn bigger roles as time, with less time, played. That's one of the things, but it's also going to allow Illinois, if they want to schedule a more difficult non-conference schedule. I think based on this season, you might already be thinking about that, but it's going to be something that they're going to have to navigate as time continues, and as the season continues to unfold. But now let's talk about the current conference schedule that they face. So Illinois faced Indiana, Oregon, Washington, Penn State, and Ohio State. The last game they played was against Ohio State at home here at Immersion Park. If you're watching that game, if you paid attention to the score, they lost that 0-3. I think they gave a really good battle in the first half, and I went back and I watched the game. There were just a couple slip-ups that they had. I think that was probably their worst game of the season. But that doesn't diminish all that they've done throughout this season. It's tough I think the toughest part about that is that you lose it at home, which you don't want to do, you don't want to see. There are a couple of hiccups in that game that ended up kind of snowballing inside of the last maybe like 25 minutes of that game, that ended up, the score looked way worse than what it actually, I think, was. But granted, bottom line, they probably don't want to lose that game in that fashion. So probably disappointed with that result. But let's talk about what they've done throughout this early slate against conference schedule. First game against Indiana, it seemed like they were really caught off guard by the way that Indiana scouted them. Indiana was able to do a really good job against this team. And what ended up kind of happening, in the words of Katie Hultin, is that they kind of lost that confidence. And that was the biggest thing, that they kind of couldn't recover. But granted, that game before the Ohio State game, it felt like the Indiana game was the hardest one, was the toughest pill to swallow. And I'll get into why, but there felt like there was so much momentum. And I'm sure in a quiet moment, you ever talk to Katie Hultin, maybe she'll admit that in the back of their heads, maybe they did want to get that perfect 8-0 record to start for the best record in Illinois soccer history. Unfortunately, that ended up going to 7-0-1, so a bit of a blemish when it comes to that. But it was a tie. It was still a tie against a pretty decent Indiana team that came into your building, gave you a battle, and you ended up doing what you could. I thought that game was well fought, and Illinois definitely felt like it could have taken advantage of a couple opportunities, weren't able to. So be it. I think still satisfied with what you saw because they ended up going on a West Coast trip to Oregon where they faced a grueling trip, right? Not only did they face Oregon that weekend, but they also had to travel 7 hours. I believe it'd be north, right? I might get my geography wrong. Don't kill me, but yes, it would be north, I believe. It's gonna make me want to look at the map. Anyways, point is, they traveled 7 hours to Washington by bus, and they ended up losing that game in Washington. But there was a blip in that game that is important to contextualize as well. It was an own goal that put them behind, kept them playing from behind. Eventually, they lost that game, but it was an own goal that felt like kind of just a blip, a blemish, a little mistake, and that ended up costing them. But the team came back feeling good about where it is that they stood, and you're seeing it that they're feeling good about all of it. So as a collective, that road trip is probably a success where you come away with those 3 points from Oregon. You obviously lose that game against Washington, but then the big one came, the Penn State game, where they put up one of the most thrilling games I think ever in the Immersion Park history, where number 18 Penn State came into their building, and it was a back and forth affair up until literally the last couple minutes, where Emma Yee took it herself and scored on her own accord after Katie Hultin had yelled at her, "Hey, hit it," and she obliged, and now you have a pretty crazy result. That what ended up unfolding was pretty crazy. Fans were loud, and it was one of the better atmospheres of Immersion Park, and it was a pretty crazy ending to have that ranked victory under your belt. I think says a lot about this program and where it's at, and I think that gave them, or maybe gives them a lot to work with. You feel good about what this Penn State team that is highly decorated, one of the better programs in Penn State. They're a model program. What you want to do in Big Ten soccer. They have 18 consecutive NCAA appearances. Just so much riding on that game, and you beat them when they came to your house. Just great stuff, One thing that I will share, I think is a bit concerning. Just the fact that like I mentioned before, those two players, I think they get beat physically by players that the Ohio State team was really huge. Like they were huge. Like you can tell just based on the screen. There was a significant height difference with a lot of them. I think this Illinois team kind of sides on the shorter side, but I think that's going to be a part of what this program is going to kind of evolve into. Obviously, you have players right now. You have your recruits, your freshmen, but you also have a significant amount of seniors who are leaving important pieces. But as you keep building this program, I think it'll continue to look more like those more competitive or more like highly decorated programs that roam in the Big Ten world. And it's been one of those seasons that I think Illinois fans, it's like you're giving a reason for Illinois fans to show up to the Immersion Park, and I don't think that this program has had that in a little bit. And you feel good about where this team is at. Coming up, they're gonna play at Maryland on Sunday. They're gonna come back home, Rutgers and Purdue. But they're putting together a really good season. They're more than halfway through their season. got 6 more. They have 6 more games to go, and it'll be interesting to see where this team ends up landing in terms of how it is that whether or not they get ranked at some point. Maybe by the time this podcast is out, they'll be ranked. If they get any sort of playoff recognition or playoff berth, that would be awesome. But we'll see how this season continues to unfold. But for now, they're putting together a really solid season. That's why I wanted to come on here and talk about this team. And before I go, I did realize that I didn't talk at all about Izzy Lee, which would be a mistake on my part. So I kind of buried one of the leads, which I'm sorry. But Izzy Lee obviously just been one of those players how much more is there to say about her? A goalkeeper that not only do you have a really good defensive back four, but you also have a goalkeeper that is got to be one of the more elite ones in the country. Just the size and the athleticism that she has, the plays that she's been able to do. She had one mistake against Ohio State. That was probably the biggest one that she's had this season, where she came up too high on the inside the box, caught her off guard. Ohio State kind of chipped it in, and it ended up being a goal for the second goal of that game for Ohio State, as things kind of kept unraveling. But that's kind of the only thing the only blemish on her resume throughout this season, because she's been really incredible. She had 10 saves in that riveting win against Penn State. She's been just continues to be one of those really good players, and you hope to continue to see that. But yeah, that's kind of what I had for this podcast. I really appreciate everyone who tuned in. I thought that this team deserves some recognition at least, and to be talked about in some capacity. So I decided to come on here and talk about it. So we'll come back with a Purdue preview episode, and then continue talking about Illinois football. But for now, I hope you enjoyed Illinois football soccer talk, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Subscribe, rate, review, please. It helps a lot. Please, it really does help. Please. All right, but no, appreciate you guys for listening, and peace.